Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Tuesday. All this week, I want us to be focusing on what it means to be a thankful people. But I have to stop here, first of all, and remind us what the Bible says about those who are not a thankful people. In Romans chapter 1, there is an occurrence where Paul tells us about those who fall under the judgment of God because they've rejected him. He says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness." The wrath of God has fallen upon them because man is living this godless life. He won't accept the Lord. He won't accept the truth about his own Creator. And he tells us there that although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, neither were they thankful. But they became futile in their thoughts and their foolish hearts were darkened. You know, when we don't see God for who he is, the real God of the universe, it cues our thinking about every other thing in this world today too. When they don't glorify God, it means they seek the glory for themselves. They feel like that man is the ultimate prize rather than God himself. And since they deny the existence of a sovereign God, their thoughts become futile, vain. All of their thinking is way off course. And all these vain thoughts, they certainly are not thankful. They don't believe they owe anything to God. They don't acknowledge God for anything in their lives. As a matter of fact, the Bible says they have changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like man. They worship birds and four-footed beasts and even creeping things. It reminds me of the Egyptians who, back in their day, they worshiped the scarab beetle. They thought it was so amazing how it got around and how it would even lay its eggs in a ball of dung, which almost looked like regeneration to them. It's like the circle of life. It's Lion King all over again. And they worshiped the scarab beetle, or what we sometimes call the dung beetle. Whenever we get to the place where we forget about God or we're not thankful and we worship everything else in this world, we're in big trouble. So God gave them over to live the way they wanted to. He gave them over to their own vile passions, which this passage reminds us that they sought sexual immorality, which was even against nature itself. And because the world today doesn't want to retain God in their knowledge, they live like Romans chapter 1. In verse 28, it begins describing them as envious and murderers and unmerciful, haters of God. That is the world that we live in today. And when we live as an unthankful people, God turns away from us. He allows us to live our lives as we want to. That is not a good thing. As a matter of fact, the Bible says if you want to live your life without God and not recognizing his blessings, you can. He will leave you alone. He will allow you to live without him for all eternity. And that's not a good thing either. You realize all of this starts whenever we are an unthankful people. When we don't give credit to God for what he has done in our lives, it begins this downward spiral to thinking that we are more important than he is. And we worship everything on earth except the God of heaven. Even though he has loved us and blessed us and given us all that we have today, I think we need to be thankful.